Hi, Ivan here from Clubscraft, where we help sports coaches spend more time with their athletes. And in the final part of our swim, bike, run performance test series, we're going to look into how you can assess your fitness on the run. And just like in with the bike, you can do something very similar on the run, where you can either do some graded exercises or you can do some time trials. And so in the graded exercises, you can do them either on a treadmill or you can go outside on a track of a known distance. And in both cases, you will need an assistant who will be with you and then start monitoring your progress and write down some information as you go through each step of the protocol. So in a graded exercise on the treadmill, you will start at a fairly easy pace. Again, something like a 12 or 10 to 12 out of 20. And you will warm up for 10 to 15 minutes. And then you will start increasing your pace by something like 0.2 miles per hour or half a kilometer per hour. And after every minute, you will just increase the speed one more time. And a few things that your assistant is going to write down is the speed at which you are running and your heart rate at the end of the minute. And they will also try and pay close attention to your breathing, as they will write your ventilatory threshold for when you start having or when you start breathing a little heavier. So that means that you are now past your anaerobic threshold, and soon after you will start feel the burn in your legs, and the test is soon going to come to a stop. On the other hand, if you're on a track, which is usually some 400 meters long, you can try and do something like measuring every half lap. So your assistant will stand on one part of the track, and while you're running around, they will just cross the other side and then just measure your time. And your goal is to increase your speed every half lap. And after 6 to 8, maybe 10 laps, you will be done. And every time you come to your assistant, you will look at your watch and tell them your heart rate so that they can write it down. And if you can let them know when your breathing starts to get labored, because that's again the time when you start going into the anaerobic zone of your exercise. On the other hand, if you want to do a time trial, there are different protocols which measure different stuff, but usually it's something like a fixed length that you try and pass through as quickly as possible. Usually it's something like a 2-mile or a 20-minute, for example, run. One that I personally do is to warm up for 10 to 15 minutes and then do a 30-minute high intensity or really strong effort. And I just take the last 20 minutes and start making some notes on my heart rates at different intervals. And I also take the average heart rate throughout the process or for the last 20 minutes. And then once I do the test again, I just compare my speed, my heart rate, and my feelings, because I will also write down how hard or how easy the last 5 to 10 minutes felt for me. And I always try and push it into the 18 out of 20, 19. So it really should start feeling like an all-out effort at the very end. And some smart watches or sports watches like my Garmin, they have also some different protocols where they have you run at specific heart rate zones. So they say, okay, for the next 3 to 4 minutes, run with heart rate between 140 and 160. After this time passes, you have to increase your heart rate from into the 160 to 180 range. And then you go into the 190s and over 200. It's really unpleasant, and that is something that I didn't mention in the previous two videos. You have to really treat these performance tests as a race, because otherwise, if you are just doing 80 or 90%, you will not get the full picture of your performance. So you have to really go right up to your limit and feel those last minute or two like you're really dashing into the finish line and just fighting for a position. So it's really uncomfortable, and you should really come well prepared to it. Both physically, you have to be well rested, but also in your head, because you sometimes you won't feel like there is a real need to push really hard, but in order to get real data, in order to have the ability to draw conclusions from your performance, you really have to push yourself right up to your limit. And after this tests, whichever test you choose, just be mindful of making sure that you really just pick one protocol for your season, and then if you want to change it up, do it after your race season, so that you really have the ability to draw conclusions from all the performance tests that you did. And that's about it. So we've covered swim, bike, and run performance tests. Next week, we are going to look into how to interpret the data and different stuff that can happen while you're in different periods of your training process, like in the base phase, or if you're approaching your races. And then we are starting to think about how we can craft our next training season to reach our fullest potential, to achieve the goals on our A races that we want to hit. So until then, bye bye.